listening to LOA Recon with the Good Vibe coach Jeanette Ma, where we dissect the ins and outs and the art and science of conscious creation, all intended to amp up your manifesting game. Let's have some fun together. Hey, thanks for tuning in again. Today's inspiration to record another episode comes from Stella, who left a review on iTunes that reads like this. Where do I even begin? When I jump into my car to drive, the main reason I get so much joy in traveling to a destination is mainly thanks to LOA Recon. I started to follow Jeanette after she was a guest speaker on another podcast, and I just cannot get enough. I love all the little tips and tricks she offers, and the main thing I love is it raises my vibrations. Just truly makes me happier listening. Keep up the wonderful podcast, and would love if you made them longer. Love from Australia. That's the second person saying they want longer episodes. Okay, well, your wish is my command. I don't know how long today's episode is going to be, but what I want to talk about today... Thank you, Stella, by the way. Thanks for the love. I wanted to talk about integrity and what makes us who we are. What makes you, you? I think being able to answer that question, not just answer it, but to live it, really, it actually helps with our manifesting success. Because we aren't truly aligned vibrationally if we aren't being who we are. And when we don't know who we are, or if we buy into a reason that we can't be that, it messes with our vibe. We're not our true selves when we aren't honoring who we are. That it just kinks up our alignment. This sounds kind of abstract, so let me bring it down to earth with a couple of examples. Here's one. I've got an ex-boyfriend. Oh gosh, I love this guy. He's still my best friend to this day. And here's what I know about him. He is not himself. Well, he's not himself when two things aren't present. If he's not being social, he's not himself. He's a social guy. We were very different in that respect. But number two, he's not himself when he's not being of service. And his particular preferred way of being of service is to help with rescued animals. If he isn't getting his time in to help in some form or fashion with animals, whether it's bottle feeding orphan kittens or feeding the pigs at the farm sanctuary or setting up booths for a fundraising event or working with the difficult dogs at the shelter, if he's not helping animals in some way, it messes him up. I remember once he took a job when it didn't allow him to keep his regular volunteer schedule at Ching Farm Sanctuary, and he did not last long with that job. His life would just started to unravel in all sorts of ways with his money, with his health, with his relationships. But once he set himself up so that he could go back to doing his regular volunteer work, he started thriving again. He has a job now that works around his volunteer schedule. That's how important it is to him, and he knows that. This is something he's learned from experience, that he's got to plug in here or he's not himself. I've got another friend who's not himself when he's not on a bike. Trust me, I don't get it about biking, but road bikes, motorcycles. He's just not himself when he's not on a bike. His life, things that happen in his life aren't cool if he's not getting his time in on the wheels. In fact, he had a serious motorcycle injury a while back that made him hang up his helmet for good. He was like, He said he couldn't keep doing it because, first of all, it put his job in jeopardy to have that much time off of work to be in recovery. He's had multiple injuries. It was a motorcycle injury. It was out on the track. He races on a professional track. And he says, look, if you're going to ride a bike, you're going to go down. You're going to get injured. And he said he couldn't afford the injuries, and his body couldn't afford it anymore. He was getting older. And he had some other reasons why he couldn't. He had sold his bike and he didn't want to spend the money on one again. Oh, and the local track was shutting down, so there wasn't going to be a place to ride anymore. And I'll tell you what, like seeing him when he wasn't on his bike, it was like, when you hear a song that's just a little bit out of tune, something's just not quite right. And it might be hard to put your finger on, but when you know what matters to you in life and when you make room for that, you're going to thrive much more easily than when you're not honoring this about yourself, whatever it is. To this friend, I'd suggested that he might, once I could see, I think he's not himself when he's not on a bike. I suggested he might want to consider getting back on one. And, he had all the reasons. I said, you might want to rethink that. And I talked about why, because this stuff is so important to us. When we're not being who we are, life isn't good. Guess what he did? He started rethinking it, and he started looking for a new bike, and he had his eyes on one, like within an hour of looking. And like the next day, someone at work told him, hey, the thing with the local track got resolved and they're opening it up again so he could have track days again. When he even thought about seriously letting himself ride again, he cried. He seriously cried. That's how much it meant to him. That's pretty important. For me, it's kittens. Like, I'm not myself. If I don't have foster kittens on a regular basis, I'm not me. And it doesn't have to be kittens. It could be puppies. It could be senior dogs. It can be wildlife. But if I'm not doing my part to support animals in some way, wild or domestic, I'm not myself. It's good for my bank account. It's good for my business. It's good for my body. It's good for my relationships, for me to be my best self. And that includes regular support of animals. I have a couple of friends who they don't thrive when they aren't active in the causes they care about, whether it's social justice issues or politics. In fact, there was one friend, she ducked out of her regular contributions in the field that she was passionate about, thinking it'd be good for her business to focus on business, but that didn't happen. Business doesn't thrive when we opt out of what we love. Business thrives when we thrive, and it's important for us to know what makes us thrive, that what makes us our best self. And in a way, you could say what I'm talking about here is just core values stuff. Like, it might not be a thing, like an activity, as much as it is a feeling or an experience. I wrote a book about the importance of core values for conscious creators. You can get a free copy at, I think the URL is identifycorevalues.com if you don't already have it. But the reason I'm talking about this is because it's key to our vibrational alignment. Bottom line. And we know alignment is the name of the game in conscious creation world. So it's important for you to know what makes you, you. Whether we talk about it in terms of values or activities, I just would invite you to know what makes you, you. In fact, so one of the ways of defining core values, I like this question. How does it go? It goes like this. What is so important to you that if you couldn't have it or you couldn't experience it, you just wouldn't, you'd not do it. You just would opt out. Like, what is so essential to your well-being that if you couldn't have it, you wouldn't be here? That's how we define a core value, something that is so important that without it, you just wouldn't rather. For me, it's nature. If I know for a fact, if I had to live this life in a concrete world, there's no doubt in my mind I would have said pass. No doubt in my mind. It's one reason my house is filled with over 65 plants. It's why every year I plant more trees and bushes on the property and fill the bird feeders. It's why dog walks in the canyon are my hands down favorite thing to do in the entire world. But for most of us, it isn't just one thing. It's probably a handful of things. For some, it's family. For some, it's adventure. It might be learning. But whatever it is, here's the thing about core values. Oh, this is really cool. When you know yours, then you can choose in favor of them. And you set yourself up for super high success. Because when you're living your values, you can't help but have a good time. It's like living in your sweet spot. Abraham might call it the vortex. But here's the other thing about core values. When you know someone else's values, there's a magical thing that happens when you help them live their values. When they'll think you walk on water and they won't even know why. They won't be able to put their finger on it, but they will adore you. This happens whether it's like someone we work with or our kids or our spouses or with neighbors or whatever. Because a lot of people, they don't, first of all, they don't know what matters to them, and then they don't know to prioritize it. That might sound like a ridiculous thing to say, but a lot of people just don't even consider what makes them who they are. They don't think about it, and they don't know why it matters, or even if they do, they have excuses why they can't live it. But when you help them choose in favor of what matters most to them, that's a really good gig for everyone all around, for you and for them. That's why I wrote a book about it. I'm pretty sure it's identifycorevalues.com. You can pick up a free copy. So anyway, the purpose of this episode was just to invite you to consider what makes you, you, and then to find that answer and then live it. Honor it. I'm telling you, it'll be good for all of us when you do. Thanks for listening, everyone, and happy manifesting.